Hey, it's Khoya from the Canada Game Centre, and this week we are upcycling old clothing. Today we are transforming our old t-shirts into beautiful macrame hanging plant holders. This is a super easy craft, and all you need for it is an old t-shirt you're probably not going to wear again, some measuring tape, and some sharp scissors. So let's get cutting. I've laid the shirt out nice and flat, and the very first thing I want to do is cut the arms off on both sides. So I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm going to cut all the way up to cut these arms off. Now that we have our sleeveless t-shirt, the next thing we're going to do is cut the t-shirt strips. So you'll need a measuring tape for this. I'm going to start at the bottom of the shirt, and I'm going to measure out 1 inch. And once I have that inch, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut a strip of the shirt all the way to the top. And I'm going to do this 4 times. So I'll cut 4 1-inch strips on this side, and then 4 1-inch strips on this side, giving me 8 strips in total. I've got my 8 strips of t-shirt rope right now, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out one by one and stretch them out nice and thin. Now that the rope has been stretched out, I'm going to separate the 2 ends, so I just have 1 end to work with here. And I'm going to make sure all my pieces are level. So I'm just going to take a minute to get them all at the exact same length. All 8 pieces. And once I've done that, we can start tying our knots for the macrame. So I've got my nice even rope. I'm going to measure about 4 inches up, and 4 inches up I'm going to make a granny knot. So just a simple loop. And I'm going to feed my rope through there. Like so. And I'm going to pull it nice and tight. And that will be the bottom of our macrame. Then we're going to separate all the pieces of rope out in pairs of 2 that are kind of close to each other. Now I've got 4 pieces of rope, each with 2 ropes per little bunch. So the next step is to take our measuring tape, and I'm going to measure 3 inches up, and I'm going to take my 2 pieces of rope, make my loop, and pull through. So I'm going to make a knot about 3 inches up from that first knot we made. And I'm going to do this with all 4 pieces of my rope. Make sure to pull it nice and tight. And I will do the same with the other ones. Now, as you can see, I've got my 4 knots tying my pieces of rope together. The next step is we're going to tie some more knots, but instead of tying these 2 ropes together, we'll be tying together the ropes that are next to each other like this. So we'll be connecting all of these ropes, and the 2 end ropes will connect together. So I'm going to measure up 3 inches again, and I'm going to tie these 2 together and continue on like so. Now that should be enough knots to hold our hanging plant. So I'm just going to go over to the other end, and it looks like my shirts aren't totally even, so I'm just going to cut at the end here to make them all the same length. Give that a nice little tug. And then I'm going to just make a loop here, quite a decently big one. And when I feed my bit through, I'm going to pull down so that I kind of leave a loop, something that my planter or my hanging plant can hang from now. Nice and tight. And voila, let's test it out. All right, and there you have it. Our beautiful macrame t-shirt upcycled hanging planter. Now, feel free to jazz this up a little by adding some beads to the bottom, or using a tie-dye shirt would also be really cool. But also keep in mind that I was measuring out 3 inches between my knots, and look how much longer that is than 3 inches. That's just because the t-shirt stretches a lot when you're putting all this weight in it, so if you're using a pot smaller than this, I would do your knots every 2 inches or even every 1.5 inches. But otherwise, there she is. Now, my challenge to you guys is, what the heck am I supposed to do with this last bit of t-shirt? Because somehow, I just don't think this is making quite the right fashion statement. That's all for today. See you guys next week.